Here it is, and of course starting to the bottom right in the red, the LGIM player down a game in this first series he is.
LGIM MVP.
Yeah, we actually have them switching colors here.
Yeah, being very sneaky like that.
Trying to confuse us a bit, but we are on top of things. I'm sorry, buddy. Top left of the map, we have the player for Axiom. It is
Axiom Ryung from America.
Axiom Ryung from America with a 1-0 lead over his opponent so far. And let's see what kind of build he has planned for game number 2. He needs another win against MVP and then he will advance to the winner's match. That's where he wants to be here in the first group of the day for us at WCS Season 1 Finals.
You know, the Street Fighter voice, by the way, is doing our intros again, and I love to hear him say from America. I want him to introduce like Guile from Street Fighter, like Guile from America.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But I love how he says that from America, because this is like so weird to me. I see like a player that I met on a daily basis here at the studio, and he says like he's from America, which is kind of true. This is one of the things that a lot of people criticize about the system, that it's possible for Koreans to just dominate WCS America, which was actually the case. And we'll see how the system is going to adapt in the future, but so far we had, of course, a very high-level play. The system that we have with WCS is rewarding the best players in the world. No matter where they are from and where they play, it's the best players, and they are being rewarded for the skill that they are able to show in those tournaments.
Yeah, definitely so. You know, a lot of players having to make some tough choices about which region they want to compete in. MVP chose to go to Europe. Ryung chose to go to America. And, you know, as a result, the level of play that you still see in a Korean player overseas is just as good as you would see it in Korea.
Yeah, definitely true. And it's something that we have just observed over and over again, not only in Europe where we saw players like MVP dominate, but also, of course, in America itself, where 5 Korean players were able to get those also important spots to participate here in the Season 1 Finals. Keep in mind that we are working towards the global finals at the end of the year at BlizzCon, so this is not only important because there's a lot of money on the line, but also a lot of WCS points that will work towards that goal. So if you perform well at WCS Season 1 Finals, you can really basically guarantee yourself already a spot at the global finals at BlizzCon at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely so. So many points on the line. A lot of money, too. I think $140,000 in total prize pool, and winner gets 40, so a lot of money on the line here. Definitely everybody looking to do that. Now, Ryung moves up here with a little bit of Reaper pressure with a Marine and an SCV. This is not going to allow him to do damage, but it will allow him a scout. Yeah. Well, if he had microed it a little bit better, he would have.
He gets a quick glimpse on top of the ramp, but that's all there's to it. Going now into the CC2, but the same is true for MVP, so this is a very different paced game from what we've seen in game number 1. What we have right now is both players trying to play a bit more of a macro game. Not a lot of early game aggression, just a little bit of scouting, poking, knocking at the front door and trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah, just knocking on the door, trying to figure out what's going on, and right now, Ryung he's taking his command center, but problems for him is that it's a little bit late, and also MVP is going to have reactored Hellions coming out here pretty soon with also drops available. So MVP is going to be able to control the map and keep Ryung in his base a little bit with these Hellions. There's something that Ryung is not just able to do yet. And part of the problem for him is he committed to the Reaper. That just costs you so much gas and a lot of resources that didn't really pay off for him.
Yeah. Keep in mind, guys, if you are just tuning in and you want to inform yourself about what's going on here at the weekend and what is going to happen, then you can always go to wcs.battle.net and get all the time zones. You can get the starting times, the streams that are there. So definitely check that out if you want to know what's happening here, how many points a player is being granted when he wins here. The prize money that's on the line for the first place alone is $40,000. You get 3,000 WCS points. That goes a long way to participate at the tournament at BlizzCon at the end of the year. So wcs.battle.net, definitely your source of information next to teamliquid.net.
That was a beautiful scan, by the way, for Ryung. That was a great source of information from him. Almost as good as the WCS site. That scan didn't have a mobile version, though, so he couldn't see it on his tablet, but at the same time, he knows now exactly what sort of composition MVP is building.
Yeah, and we have the armory going down for MVP. So MVP is heading into the Hellbat drops once again. That's something that he relied on in the last game. He already has Widow Mines on the map.
Yeah, he does, and this is what I was talking about before. MVP, he doesn't stop Ryung from moving his commander to the low ground, but he's going to keep him very occupied with the aggression that he has out. He has it first because he had the faster gas, he didn't make a Reaper, and so as a result, he gets to control the map as ever he wants to.
Yeah. MVP now moving out with the first drop. Those Hellions already trying to sneak in, but the dropship to the top right, that's where the real danger lies.
Only one Marine in the bunker.
That's not enough to stop those Hellions.
Yeah, if he just walks by,
here come those Widow Mines. He can boost in again, and that's what he does. The Viking doesn't have enough DPS to stop this. There's no added Widow Mine. And here comes MVP dropping everything. The Hellions at the front door, not doing anything though, but now moving in.
Now moving in here, going to do some serious damage if Ryung does not pull quickly. He pulls decently here, but he's still losing some of his Harvesters.
Yeah, already 3 of them killed by the Hellions alone here, and he's trying to get another good shot off, but all those Hellions for Ryung doing a decent job trying to push MVP back here.
And this is just pressure, though. This is not a drop that has to do damage or MVP is behind. He has a third command center on the way. He's just trying to control the map right now.
Yeah, if you could just look at the Harvesters killed so far, it's 5 Harvesters killed by MVP. Ryung, yeah, suffered a few losses here, but he's still in okay shape.
Yeah, he's ahead in the Harvesters still.
Yeah, he's still ahead in the Harvesters. But now we have, of course, MVP already just going into phase 2 of the aggression, going into the Hellbat drops.
Yeah,
now.
double Hellbat drops coming here. A very crisp build we're seeing from MP. His attacks in game number 1 were like this too, just going in phases. And Ryung has a strong army and a stronger one than MVP has, but he's just using these drops to keep Ryung off his back. Ryung going to go for a counterattack. Only 2 Marines in there, but he doesn't realize it and doesn't decide to commit. He could have done a ton of damage there.
Yeah, he doesn't really know what's on top of this ramp, and we have even a few Hellbats just waiting for him. But now the Viking not in position to stop this Hellbat drop, and here at the natural we already have those Hellbats being dropped and doing damage, trying to get close enough to the mineral line, and another one in the main base, but here are a few Marines. Oh, but they can't do anything here, and Ryung doesn't realize it. He's losing all of them.
Oh, wow, the medevac even survives a little bit longer. Not going to work out too much for him with the Viking coming in, but he pulls his SCVs nicely.
Yeah.
But look at MVP take a huge lead in supply.
Yeah, he takes a huge lead here and is denying so much mining time, especially at the natural. He took down units in the main base. Another 8 workers killed by MVP, 13 in total now, and this gives the LGIM Terran player a really good lead in the game.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't let one Banshee catch him off guard this time, he might be in great shape. And look at what Ryung is researching. Blue Flame, I haven't seen that upgrade very much in Heart of the Storm, just simply because it doesn't affect the Hellbats.
Yeah, but MVP, you know, he doesn't stop. He goes for the next drop. He's just sending wave after wave towards his opponent. And usually, I mean, we had a Widowmine drop to start it with, then suddenly we had the first Hellbat drop. That's the second one. A few more Vikings now committed to the defense, but still, if MVP is able to boost in again, that could be devastating for Ryung.
Yeah, you know, the Blue Flame is actually going to be best against the Hellbats, because Hellbats are still light units, and so maybe that's what he's banking this on a little bit. Obviously, the Blue Flame not going to be good enough for these next 2 drops that are coming in. MVP gearing up to take that 3rd base. He's already landed it. Ryung, on the other hand, doesn't even have it started. It started as I speak on the production tab. You can see it there.
Ryung might just have a little bit too much for MVP to handle with those 2 dropships. The Vikings even trying to scout out where exactly they are, and now he sees one of the medivacs with the help of the Zalnaga Watchtower. MVP realizes it too, and immediately boosts in to take at least on the Hellion, which he doesn't really manage to do. But the supply lead for MVP is so significant right now.
Yeah, so significant, and you know, the Hellions here for MVP are going to allow him to now take his base safely. He has the wall set up, so no run-bys with Blue Flame are going to give any problems. I like how Ryung uses Vikings, though. He knows that in a mech versus mech type of game, which is just like what we saw last game, that air dominance can do so much for you vision-wise, shutting down medevac, shutting down Hellbat drops directly on top of tanks. You know, that type of drop can be shut down by Vikings. Banshees can do a lot for you, as you saw in last game as well.
MVP is really in a dominant position. I'm blown away by his macro here. He has already a 30 supply lead over his opponent, is heading into additional upgrades now. Has already a 3rd base up and running, whereas Ryung is just now building his command center. Ryung is falling so far behind in this game.
Yeah.
And the only thing that MVP really did is his aggression. While belittling it a little bit, calling it the only thing, it was actually like really well executed and great drops, but he just shows that MVP, I mean, the guy is amazing. Ryung is such a good TVT player, but against MVP here on a kill-on, he is struggling.
MVP's build definitely the better one. He just got all the advantages here. And we're actually going to watch Blue Flame Hellions versus Hellbats. Who's going to win? I think actually the Blue Flame Hellions might win. We'll see.
Well, it depends a lot on the micro, but we have tanks too, and with the tanks it's a different story, but you can see those few Hellbats really melting away. Good shots here for Ryung, but now the dropships are moving in once more, and with double drops, double medivac, He's getting now into the main base and under the natural.
Exactly, and there's no Vikings to stop the natural. The Vikings in the main base kill the medevac, but don't deny the Hellions. Might want to see a secret missile or at least auto turrets coming down here. Drops the Vikings instead, but here comes those at the natural.
Oh, and he just is not able to drop on top of this huge chunk of SCVs. Maybe a little bit premature here with the drop. Not doing too much with those Hellbats. That could have been devastating, you know, dropping with the first medevac, just 2 of them, and then darting in with the second one into the huge clumped up SCV bulk.
This time MVP goes into double Thor protection early as he starts to realize that air control might be a problem for him. He also has the second armory faster than his opponent. He does not, however, use that just yet. He does have double armory though.
Thor's coming in now for MVP, so he's adding Thor's to the composition on top of the siege tanks that we already have and the 19 Hellbats. He's also adding the next upgrade. The one thing that Ryung has is going into the double upgrades here with the double armory, trying to do as much as he possibly can, but MVP is already trying to pull off the same thing, adding the second armory here to access those additional upgrades now that he's on 4 bases. And once again, 1 base ahead of his opponent.
1 base ahead here, and Thor shot's getting off here very, very nicely, damaging those Vikings, scaring them away, and this means that Ryung cannot really use that air dominance this game like he would have liked to. He's starting to move across the map, but he just doesn't have a big enough army.
He's at the 3rd base right now, not going into assault mode with those Vikings. I really thought for a second that he might try to pull that off, especially since in the air, there's not a lot that can really threaten him. He does have the superior Viking number. Sometimes you're a little bit hesitant to go into the assault mode because you assume your opponent has more Vikings. If he then comes to defend, you will lose all the Vikings because you just can't go into airborne style anymore. But in this situation for Ryung, it would have worked out really well. And maybe now he's doing it in the main base.
I think he's going to do it now. This army though, clash in the middle of the map is much better for MVP, and Ryung is not watching. He sieges up, gets the first siege up, but is it enough? I just don't think so.
No, 1 shot getting off, but now those Hellbats are way too close, and the rest of the tanks and also the Thors lending their strength to this army for MVP, taking everything apart.
Viking run by here at the 3rd, but it's not going to change the game here.
Yeah, he could have done this a little bit earlier, but he didn't. Now he's 50 supply behind, and even if the space is down, MVP has 3 additional ones, and you can see that Ryung has no hopes of defending at home.
Absolutely not. Every single SCV down, and Ryung going to have to play a game 3 here. He's not going to get into the winner's match as easily as he may have hoped. Now down to 75 supply. MVP doubling him, and he's up a base. This command center is dead. GG.
GG and game over. We are heading into game 3. Terran versus Terran here at the WCS, the Season 1 finals in Korea. Great play by MVP. I'm blown away by his playstyle here. That this worked so well against Ryung really surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, very much so. And honestly, I thought that with the opening of MVP, the way the game went is almost exactly as I expected. You know, just going in, constantly putting pressure on Ryung. Ryung can't expand very quickly. His tech is a little bit later. And the drop defense from Ryung was decent, but it was not good enough.
Yeah, the thing is that MVP was in this entire series, or not in the series, but in the game, he was never threatened.
Yeah.
It just looked like he could do whatever he wanted to do. He started with his aggression, went into the Widowmine drops. We had then several waves of Hellbat drops coming in. And the only thing that Ryung was doing was just standing in the corner and trying to defend, always taking hit after hit after hit, and MVP was just building like another base, a 3rd, a 4th, teching it up.
Yeah, he built an empire around it, while Ryung was just sitting there trying to dodge punches. And that's the type of playstyle that can really be good if you're a player who has a good macro. If you're able to macro while you harass and you can get ahead like that and take that 3rd base. And during all of it, he killed the rocks, and then he killed the destructible rocks. He has the defense set up against Hellion run-bys.
MVP basically played a game of civilization, and there was no other culture on his continent. So he could do whatever he wanted to, and then later on with the lead and upgrades and also with the army, when those few footmen came over, he already had tanks and took them out. So he won that in a dominant fashion, and a much different game from what we've seen in game number 1.
Absolutely so. Very dominant, and both games, were played out where MVP had the early lead. Game 2, though, he prepared the anti-air, he prepared the Thors, he had those Thors ready, and the Viking run-by did very little.
He just looked very solid. He looked really solid in the series. And, at this point, of course, we're just waiting to see what exactly map number 3 is going to be.
Yeah, Newkirk Precinct.
Okay,
but not the redevelopment precinct, so I wonder if that's actually the right map. And actually ask them. I don't know if I can type with one hand. This is an unusual experience for me.
So,
thank you.
don't worry about that. Okay, so yeah, we have today a production that of course is going in cooperation with OGN, so we have to change things up a little bit. But yeah, with the map changes that we had, Newkirk was a bit adjusted, so we just have to double check that this is actually the correct version of the map.
It's
being
not
loaded.
actually the map that was listed from before, but
Yeah, it's not the map that was listed, but I guess that in a tournament like this, they would double check. So I would be very surprised if this is not the map that they intended to us. Maybe it was an overlay
it's the latter
problem
version.
earlier, but this is the latter version of the map. So MVP versus Ryung started. Game number 3 going on. We will see who goes to the winner match and who will drop down to the losers match here at Group B of WCS Korea Finals.